Thanks, Felicia. Hey guys, happy Friday. Today we have the Crystal Ombre Loom Bracelet class, and this was a fun one that uses a lot of things together that are just really fun to put together. So this is the bracelet, and the cool thing about it is it's got some different size beads integrated together. So we've got 6mm crystal rounds and size 8 seed beads, which are about 3mm in size. So getting those to line up, it's really easy to do. And I know one of the reasons we thought about doing this class is we got a lot of requests from students saying, I want to work a loom design with beads that are different sizes running parallel to each other. And so that was where this idea came from. And Carmi was suggesting we do something with the crystal. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's perfect. Let's do that. And so this was actually, it doesn't always happen, but this was the first draft. So like, this was the first one I made and it worked. And in truth, a lot of these classes, we take an idea and then I make 4 of them and tweak it down and get something. This is like, whoa, the first time just popped off and it was so good. So I think that means it's probably a good design and hoping you guys will like it. And so I'm going to show you how to do this using a standard loom. And this is probably the one that you've all tried first. If you're new to looming, maybe this is the first one you pick up. If you're using a loom that you're a more experienced loomer and you have other looms you're using, I'm going to talk about the measurement here so that you know exactly what measurement to use on your loom that you're using. It's possible to do this on basically any loom. All right, and so I think, thanks, Felicia. Here on the mat, what I've got is the finished design on a loom. So you can see how it's set up. And this is the one we will use to demo taking off of the piece and then doing some of the initial braiding. And then I also have one that's got the braiding done so we can show how to do the closure that's on it. The closure is a sliding knot. That's what I'm showing here. It's what some folks might call a silk wrap, but you could also do a square knot. So we'll talk about both of those when we get to that spot. Some of the materials I'm using, I used to warp the loom. Let me grab it really quick. I used the Gudebrod thread that has color natural. And then today, what I'm demoing today, I'm going to use black so you can see more what I'm doing. But this one is the color I used in the original demo in the original sample. It's really thin. So we've been working with this in a couple of our other classes, but one of the things I wanted to show is how it just stays like it's a waxed polyester. It's got a pretty thin diameter. It goes easily through even like a size 8 seed bead. And so even though we don't need to bring beads onto this cord for this design, it is, it kind of behaves like a thread, and that's really handy for looming. Okay, and so the actual stitching though, I did the stitching with good thread. And so this thread is it's a really nice fringe beading thread. It's the same one we're going to use next week for the fringe class, but it is just so flowy and silky. And I thought it looked really, really nice as the, what's called the weft thread. And we'll get into that for anyone that's new to looming. Okay, and then for beads, I'm using a mix. I'm using the Apricot mix in size 8. And then I'm using some 6mm round crystals in a bunch of colors. And all of the colors I used are in the handout. So you can see every single one with the Michael skew. So you just pop that into the app and it should automatically pop in your cart. But I did an ombre of colors. I started with jet, then I went to black diamond, which is the one I'm showing here. Then I went into Colorado topaz first and then honey. So this was kind of the flow that I did. And I wanted to show this just in case you want to try some other colors and you like the style and these counts. If you just take 4 colors that you feel flow in this way, and then just line them up from dark to light, you can do this ombre that's in this bracelet with basically any colors and combine any mix you feel goes with it. So that's what we'll be doing. And so just to start, I'm going to grab a loom that doesn't have anything on it yet. And I've got my camera a little high right now so you guys can see this part, and then I'm hoping I can slide it down closer when we start looming. But what I'm going to do now is warp the loom. And I need to warp it with 6 strands. And so what I did to start was I actually used 3 long strands and then folded them in half. So what you'll want to do is take the cord and cut 3 lengths that are 30 inches long. So you'll need 3 30-inch lengths. And over here underneath my mat, I actually have a measuring. So just here off camera, I'm measuring that really quick. Whoop. Hopefully, if I don't drop my spool. All right, and so there's 30 inches. I'm just marking that with my hand. And you can use a tape measure too, if that's easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and just use this to measure the others. Bring that together. Just pull that down. And I just need one more like that. If you're using a loom where you have a bar to spin over, like on this one, it's this, you can also warp it with one long strand and then just go back and forth. The only tricky part is, and I'm going to show you in a second, is the spacing, because there's a jump in the spacing, but it is totally possible to do it that way too. So however you like to do your warping, if you're someone who likes to just go one continuous, feel free to do that here and it will still work. But what I did is I cut 3 strands that are 30 inches long. And now what I'm going to do is I'm holding one end. Here's the other end. Bring those 2 together. And so I got my midpoint here on this side. Now on this side, I'm just going to tie an overhand knot toward the bottom with all of these strands together. Now these 30-inch measurements are going to give me a bracelet that's adjustable up to about 8 inches. So feel free to add length if you would like to. And I'll show you how to secure that length on the loom. So I'm gonna make sure I got all of those together. I'm just gonna bring that down. All right, so there's an overhand knot. And here's my midpoint. And I'm just gonna bring the midpoint over the bar here and just pull tight. And so for now, it's gonna be a little tricky to get all the placement correct. So just for now, just go ahead and kind of broadly make it look the way you think it's gonna. What we're gonna end up doing is having a strand in every space. So if you're working on, for example, the jewel loom, it's the same every groove. Then you're gonna skip 2 grooves and then do every groove after that. So for now, just get it to kind of stay sort of. And let me try to make it so you guys can see. I'm coming down to the bottom now. And here's the button on the bottom. So from here, what I need to do is just loosen things up here a little bit, and let's roll it forward a little bit. So consume some of that length up here. And then roll this way. I'm going to try to keep my knot in the center here. Sorry, I was off camera there. So what I did is I got the knot. I'm just spinning this so it captures my knot here. Keep spinning. And then go ahead and tighten this side. And we can tighten this again at the end if we feel like it needs it. That's one cool thing about this style. So again, at the top, I just got my midpoint over that knob, and I just, I gave it a little bit of length in that direction. And then I came over here and I put the knot on this knob, and I had to spin it a little bit to get it to catch the knot. But once you've got that, you'll have something that looks like this. And so we're just going to make sure each of these is spaced in every single groove, skipping 2 in the center, which is where our crystal is going to go. All right, so this one already has one of them where I want it. So we'll start with this one. And you usually have to do this top and bottom. So there's my top. Let's come down here. And I'm going to bring this one over. And this next one here. So that's how you want it to look for one side. And I'm just going to copy that over here. And this part can be a little bit tricky and challenging, so just go slow. And if you like using a beading awl, you can feel free to use that here too. It sometimes works really well. And I feel like this is the strand that is better suited for that position. And I'm just basing that on the way that it's coming up out of the knot. So like that. I'm thinking that's pretty good right there. So one last spot, I got to make that match here. Okay. One more. Yay, it worked. Sometimes it doesn't always happen that easily, and just go slow and don't worry about it if it's not perfect. And at this point, it's kind of loose. It's looser than I think would be easy for me to stitch onto. So I'm going to tighten it up, and you can just pick a side, any side. You only need to loosen one side, and then just make it a little tighter by rolling. Just tighten that wing nut down until you're happy with the tension. That looks pretty good. And make sure you skip 2. I skipped 2 here, and then I noticed down here that I actually accidentally skipped 3. I do that a lot. So it's really easy to make that mistake. So let's fix that really quick, and I might need to tighten it one more time. Actually, I think my tension's still pretty good. All right. So there we go. And again, this sometimes it doesn't always, instantly work out for you, but just give it a moment and try and make it line up. And over here, if things aren't exactly perfect, don't worry about that. Just as long as the same strand, that's the edge on this side, is the same strand that's the edge on this side, and so on. As long as that's the same, you're okay. Because all this is just going to get freed at the end. Okay, so let's get our other thread. So for this one, you're going to need about 70 inches or so. So for me, a wingspan and a little more. You can easily add thread as well. So if 70 inches seems a little long, start with less and then just know that you can add if you'd like to. And I'm using this actually might be a size 12 beading needle, but in this case, you can use any beading needle you'd like. You can use a 10, an 11, because we're just working with some size 8 seed beads and crystals with a really nice, generous hole diameter. So everything's going to work out pretty good. Okay, and so I just kind of naturally did a couple things there that I should talk about. I automatically brought the strand underneath the warp. So these are the warps here, and this is going to be our weft, this thread. And I just brought it underneath because that's where it's going to be. And because I'm right-handed, I tend to load my beads from this side. So I'm going to bring my beads out here and then start going from that direction. So let's get our crystals and our apricot mix. A lot of crystals here. I cut my strands free earlier today because I know it can be kind of it takes a long time to actually get those off the little cards, and just save us a few minutes there. But when you get your crystals, they'll look like that on a strand. And I'm kind of just selecting now for color. What I did was I worked with the root beer and the copper, and I made root beer my edge color, and then copper my inside color. And then after that, I went and started using the center color, which is, I started with jet. So a jet crystal. And then you'll need a copper and finish off that edge with another root beer or any pattern that you'd like. And then bring it down and leave a tail that's about 10 inches long. So I'm gonna go from here about yay long. And again, I'm still working underneath the loom here. So I like to start my stuff without knotting. If you're someone who likes to knot to a side warp, go for it. You can do that here because we're not going to try to slide these afterward. It's going to stay pretty much in place. So, but I just out of habit don't do that because I'm usually doing a looming method where I want mobility on the loom, on the warps themselves. So I tend to not knot, but and I'm going to show you that because it's kind of cool. But if you are somebody who would prefer to do a little knot here, that is totally fine. We just knot to the edge. What I'm going to do is I got my 12-inch tail over here. 10 to 12 is fine. And I'm just going back through all the beads with my needle right now, just so I have something to pick them up with so that they don't fall when I'm doing this next step. And then I just bring them underneath, and they should pop right in between your spacing here. Now, that doesn't always 100% work out either. If you're using the same exact loom I am, same exact beads, you'll probably have this kind of luck. If you're using a different loom, it might not instantly go. You just have to help it by moving the warps over the beads. Usually I would just kind of pick it and move it to where I need it to be while using my hand to secure everything under it. But now I'm going to pull that needle out and go back through the beads. And this time, when you're going back through the beads, make sure you don't go underneath these threads, these cords. You want to stay on this pass. You want to stay above them. And trying not to puncture them too is also kind of good. And you'll know if you punctured it or not because it won't move. Let's see, I can really move that. So preserving my tail on this side, I'm just going to go ahead and pull that all the way through. And I got caught there. There we go. And if your tail moved at all, like mine just did, you can adjust it now by just pulling through. So I just want to double check with Carmi really quick. How is the visibility on this and the understandability of that step before I go on?
It's good, Danielle. I think the only thing, if someone has never done this, where you're actually telling them that the thread is underneath, and then when you're going through the beads, it's going over, give them a little tip on how to just sort of feel their way.
Yeah, exactly. The easiest way to know that well, it's easiest to go under, of course, because we know we've gone under it. And then when you're doing your pass above it, if you push up on the beads from underneath, just like really push up on them, and you bring your needle through, and as you're bringing your needle through, you try to push up on the inside of the bead, then you're more likely to know that you've absolutely captured that the bead without, going through or under your work threads. So that's one way to kind of know. And another way to know also, probably the easiest way, is if you miss that anywhere, the bead will actually kind of hang down. Like, for example, if you were to turn it to the side, if I went underneath any of these warps when I was making that pass through, the bead would just like poke down and hang. It wouldn't stay locked in between each of these. It would just kind of be loose looking. And I think it would be kind of obvious and you'd see it. So that's another way to just kind of error check it, is to just turn it to the side and, hey, I did that. Did that stay?
That's great, Danielle. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. And then of course, just practice. It's one of those things that like you will find that it kind of just clicks for you, like so many things like knitting and crochet. It's like, oh my goodness, at first, and then hang on, totally get it right within a few. All right. And so the next step is a little like more 102, right? But it's still really easy. So stick with me for a second. We're going to do another row, but we're not going to put any crystal on. So row 2 is going to share the crystal from row 1. And this is just the secret sauce for how people do those really cool designs where they have mismatched bead sizes. So again, I'll bring these underneath. See, we're coming up from under. And it's a little tricky, but if you turn your loom to the side, easier to see. But we just want to go through the crystal from underneath. So we want to go through the crystal's hole. And sometimes you can push it down a little bit. I don't want to push it down that much, but. And just making sure I only go through the crystal. This gets easier in the next ones, because everything's kind of loose right now. So the first rows, like with every bead weaving thing, it's always trickier. But then those beads should come right up and sit right next to the crystal. And they're still a little bit loose because they don't have that pass coming back this way yet. But they're kind of where we want them to be. So let's keep going. I'll get those next 2 beads for that row. So that's a copper and a root beer. Slide that down and just let those fall underneath the warp threads. Kind of help them out, push them up. You should sit like that. And let's do that pass back through. So what's going to happen when you go back through, you might want to do it in sets of 2 for the seed beads and then the crystal by itself. So again, I'm passing back through the beads, staying above these threads. So through the crystal, just making sure my needle's coming out right above that. Hold tight. And then one more time, I'm going to go through the seed beads and staying above the warp. Just getting through those seed beads. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. That's how I did the whole bracelet. Let's do some more rows so you can see how it comes together. But this part is actually really, really fun. And at some point, you're going to want to take your tail thread, just bring it over, and maybe just give it a little loop around, just to get it to not get in the way so much. So let's get it to stay like over there so we can work without it in our way. So coming up underneath, let's get root beer, copper, and a new color of crystals. So we'll go for the black diamond here. Just our next one up. Copper, and then root beer. I'm gonna slide that down. They're all gonna pop up right underneath here. And then just go back through them, staying above your warp threads. And so you'll get something that looks like that. And now we'll just do the next row. Next row is going to share crystal from the last one. So we'll do root beer, copper, and I'm going to feel my way through the crystal here by pushing down on the crystal. I'm just getting through the hole that's there. So just went through the crystal from underneath. And pull through. And then I need to grab the next beads for this row. So copper and root beer to finish that edge. Oop. Slide that down. Just helping lock those in like that with my thumbnail. And let's go back through them. So again, staying on the above. There's through the seed beads. Crystal. Okay. And then right through here. And that worked out so nicely. I remember that moment when I was first trying this and I'm like, oh my gosh, that just worked. That doesn't happen. That's cool. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's just do one more. It's really fun. It's like kind of mesmerizing how fun it is just to sit there and put your rows on. If you're trying to chill that day and you're just trying to get your mind off stuff, this is a really nice way to do that. Something about looming. And so I'm just making sure I don't puncture or go under any of those warps. Get that row on. Just pushing them down a little bit. Okay, tricky part. Just got to get through that crystal from underneath. So just push down on it a little bit. Try not to go through the seed beads. Making sure I actually went through the seed beads by accident, so let's make sure I don't do that. There we go. And if you feel like it got loose while you were doing any of those steps, just give this thread a gentle pull. And then pull in on this one. It should pop right in there like that for you. So let's finish that. You got the copper, root beer. Slide those down. Pop them into place and then go back through them. So that's pretty much how I did the whole thing. It's just going through, sorry about the focus there, going through the beads in the center. They're going to get 2 rows. If you look really closely, you can see how they're joined. And there you can see there's two beads coming out, 2 rows coming out of each bead. And for the pattern, again, what I did is I just went The sides stayed the same the whole time, but I just went from dark to light. And when I got to the lightest bead, I just went right back down. And then from there, I went back up. So it's going to use more of black diamond and more of the Colorado Topaz, and it's going to use less of the jet, a little bit less of the honey color, which is the one that looks really clear here. But that's pretty much the whole pattern. I have one that's worked ahead, but before I switch, I wanted to just make sure everyone's cool with the looming part, because this is the kind of the main thing of class there.
Hey, Danielle, again, because some people didn't get a chance to shop for the class or anything like that. What other thread could they use if they couldn't find good thread, or
I think it's yeah, if you can't find good thread and you can't find this stuff, and you like this look and you want to be able to do the braid at the end. So B-Lawn, which is also at Michael's, B-Lawn work. And then I think this would work. So like a size D Nymo. I think you could also get away with Wildfire if you wanted to do your wefting with the Wildfire. I think that's possible. I think it would work. It would behave a little differently because it is meant to provide structure. So it's not going to make it as flowy. And what you might get is your edges. In order to tighten Wildfire, you have to pull a little harder. And so like with this one, I could just gently, and I get my edge doing what I want tension wise. With Wildfire, me just kind of guessing right now, I feel like I would have to maybe hold it a little bit while I did that to make that edge tighten up, but it would work. It would work. And I actually have done some looming with B-Lawn and Wildfire together. Actually, I had a class with Meredith Roddy where we did that for Michael's. So if you want to check that one out too, and for that, we even use the Apricot mix for that. Now that
those are good tips, Danielle. And
yeah.
Also, did you use more than one strand of crystals?
No, I did, but I made 3 of them.
Okay.
But yeah, one strand of crystal will get you this design. I did want to point out though that it is not a full length design. It's only about 4.5 inches. Let me grab my tape measure. Roughly, well, in this case, 5.5 actually. So if you guys can see there. Or hang on, 4.5. I thought it was 4.5. I just was measuring from 1. Sorry. Yeah, 4.5 is what I thought it was. And this is because when you're wearing it, that's going to mostly cover the top of your wrist. Let me slide this out of the way. And when you tighten it, the cool thing about that is that the part that, as you're wearing it, the part that's tightened is just cord over here, see? So like while you're typing on your computer, you don't have, and you can make this tighter on your wrist, as tight or as loose as you'd like it to be because of the way it slides. And so eventually, like for me, that's going to be probably like that. That said, if you would like it longer, I can show you how to pull this over the bar. I think we have time for that. And it's a really handy tip just to know anyway. And if you're working with any other kind of looms, just check the instructions. If they aren't longer than this one, because for example, just to give you a heads up, the full length of this loom entirely, if you worked from top to bottom on it, let me bring it this way, it only gives you 6 inches. And that's if you're working right to the bar. So you're really talking about a workable area of approximately a hair under 5, right? See, to do a full length bracelet on one of these looms, you do have to know how to pull it over the bar. And then on another manufacturer's loom, if it's not already longer, they'll tell you how to do that in their manual. But let's show it here. And does that answer the question, or anyone
It does, Danielle. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Let me just get my strands out of the way so I'm not tangling myself here. Okay, so this is a finished one that we were ready to take off the loom. But if I wasn't ready to do that and I wanted to keep working, here's the side where I'm currently working, where my needle was, and I want to keep working up from here. What I would need to do is bring some of this work down. Now with the crystals, it's going to be trickier. These are designed to more with flat beads, you know, that can roll even over the bar if they had to, but it still works. So you got to loosen both and then release a little bit at the top. So I just released a little bit up here and then come down here and take that away. And you see how it's rolling over the front here? And that's probably all I need. So let's tighten one side down and then come up here, tighten that. And that would give me another 1.5 inches to work with. And I could continue to do that if I needed to over here. And I could bring it down maybe even all the way around the back. So I know it's possible to do something even as big as like a hat band on one of these little ones. It's definitely possible. You just have to start rolling it around the base here. So well, that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and take this one off so we can see how to finish it. So I'm just removing this side. And I'm going to see if I can spin this side off here. And so you'll have all of this. And if you feel like you need to, you know, you don't probably have to, but it is still possible to move these strands. It might move things around a little bit, but you can if you need to. You can move these out of the way. And for example, on this one, you might notice it's a little short here. I could have done with leaving myself a little more length there. And so remember when we started this one, we rolled this forward a little bit at the side that had the no knot. So learn from my mistake on this one. I was working kind of fast, and give yourself a little space there so that you have a little longer bit to work with there. This is still going to work for me, but it's a little shorter than I would have liked it. Okay, and so, and I've got a lot of length over here. So just even that out when you're, you know, when you're beginning, it'll make it easier. I do need to, before I do anything else, I do need to get rid of these strands really quick. So I'm going to grab a needle, and it's okay to do this on the loom or off the loom, whichever you prefer. So you can take your threads and weave them in while it's still on the loom too. It's all right to do, but it's really easy. So I'm going to take this strand, which is either the weft or start or beginning and end. I'm not sure which it is now, but I'm just going to bring it through the beads and go through the crystal. Go through some beads. And in fact, I might switch up to these beads. You see, I can choose any row I want now. I can go 1 or 2 coming out of that crystal. Flip it over. And let's go through here again. Go through here. And this that I'm doing right here is also how you add thread. So you just go through a couple rows, make some turns, and I'm going to come back up to this one again. Now again, I don't typically knot, but if you wanted to knot, you can do a half hitch. A good place to do one of those would be probably coming out of the crystal, I would say, but maybe do it on the side that you might, this doesn't really have a top or a bottom, meaning this way versus this way, but on the side you think you might wear against your wrist, you might want to do that knot. You just pick it up, pick up the weft thread coming out of your crystal. It can be a little tricky to see here, but see, I'm just getting my needle right under it. Pull through, pull up a loop, go back through the loop, and then just really gently give that a tug. And you can repeat that if you want. Go through a few more beads. Pull that. And then trim it. And so that's all you got to do to get rid of those. So I'm going to do that a little faster over here, but you will get to see it again. I think this was probably a leftover working side that I had here. And so just looking at the side, I'm exiting from this top part of the warp. So I'm just going over the warp and under the warps through the beads. Through those two. And I'm being careful, but it's not you know, super critical. If for some reason you punctured one of these threads, you know, one of the warp threads at this point, it probably wouldn't make a huge difference. It'd be okay. Through here. So yeah, just super easy. Let's do another little knot here in case anyone likes that idea. So again, what I did here, it's hard to see, but there's a strand, a weft strand that's running from this crystal into that next seed bead. And all I did was go under it with my needle. Keep going under it, pulling up a loop. Go back through that loop. And then just tighten it gently. Continue through the beads. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim it there. And there you go. So up here at the top, what you'd want to do, and ideally it'd be just a little longer, but trim that. So you've got these free. And notice you have 3 strands on each side. So you can do a braid or square knots if you want. You can take the 2 side strands and square knot it down, or you can do a cute little braid, which is what I did on this one. And I'm going to show on how to do that here. And it's pretty easy to do. It's just you take, you need a weight. Let me show you what I've been using for a weight. It's kind of, you know, sky's the limit on that one. But here I'm just going to go ahead and cut free from my knot. Trying to keep those a little bit even. Okay. And there you go. So we're ready to do some braiding. Let me bring this down just a little bit. Might be a little better, I'm hoping. And maybe even this color needs to change. Might be a little better. Wishing I had another color here, but let's find something to put weight on it. And so you can kind of use anything. I'm just going to grab my spin that bead box and just kind of place it up here to hold it in place. And then separate your strands and work individually with whichever one you'd like to start with. And just start braiding them. And if a braid is new to you, what you do is you take 3 strands that separate them out. And then I like to start with the one that's on the outside, but it doesn't actually matter. Cross one over the other. And just hold that. Then grab the other one that's on the edge and bring it in between those 2. So like that. And then pick up the next one, bring it over. Bring that up. And bring that over. You could also clip this to a macrame board, a clipboard. I might even have a clipboard here somewhere. I'm forgetting where I put it though. But truth be told, I think I just throw a paperweight on top, and that's what I've been doing downstairs in my other work area. So I think it's the easiest. And this does take a minute. You just keep bringing the outer cord in between the 2 that just crossed. And when you see me putting my finger on top of it, what I'm doing is keeping this part tight. So like I want it to stay flat like that. Bring this over. Like that. It looks really pretty. It really does. And I have done this with Beading too, and it works out really nice. What I can say for the Gudebrod wax thread though, is your braid stays nice and put. It's sticky-ish, not too sticky. It doesn't leave a residue on your hands, but it is sticky enough that it really, like even macrame knots, they just stay right where you put them. Just cross that one. I pulled too hard on that last one. There we go. A little hard to see, but what I'm doing here is just using my hands as tension. There we go. All right, so you pretty much you would do that for a long strand, and then just pinch it at the end and come over and just do a quick overhand knot. I didn't finish my braid, but And if you didn't want to do the braid, you don't have to. You could do a square knot. You could also just bring them together and do an overhand knot and say, you know what, I'm good at that. I think that looks cute too. You don't have to do anything more than that. The braid does look kind of neat. And so that is what I did on all of my samples here. Let me bring all those back out. So on this one, just braided those edges all the way to the end, just like we were just doing there. And it looks cool. It looks really neat. Then to bring it together, you need to grab the ends and do either a square knot or a silk knot. So I'm trying to find the original sample here. I've hidden it from myself. It was just here. So this is the one we just took off the loom. Oh, you guys are gonna laugh. I found it. It's right here. I've been wearing it. Okay, there we go. I was getting worried there. I was like, where did I put that? Nope, I'm wearing it. So another choice you can make, and this is all just, at this point, we're in the realm of style and what do you like, because you can do anything you want. But I brought them together like this just to do something different, because typically what I do is I'll bring them together and I'll cross them over like that and do like a square knot here, you know, on top of all four of these. And then so you're pulling, when you put it on, you're pulling it like this to tighten and pulling it like that to loosen. So you can do that if you'd like. You would just do your square knot with the strands facing that way, or you can do what I did here and pull them that way. And both of those work great and they wear really nicely and people like it. Okay, so how did I do that? What I did, and let's work with some cord. I cut about 15 inches. You can go more or less. It's not locked in, like, you know, 15, 20 would work just fine. And then just bring these together. And what I actually did is I just laid them on top of each other and then brought that down. Okay. And so I'll show a silk wrap, and then if we have time, I'll also show a square knot if someone wants to see that. But we're just going to bring one end and form a loop with one end. And then place that on top of everything and just hold all of that in your hand. And what we're going to do is take the long part of that strand and coil it around all of these cords heading toward the loop, which is in my hand right here. And so I just go around and just keep coiling. And you can try to place the new coil above the other one relative to where your hand position is. But the important part is just that they're all heading toward the loop every time. And I find that it's easier to wrap with my right hand for some reason. Not sure why. So keep going. And you can make this as long or as short as you like. And a lot of you guys might recognize this is how you do like those like rosary knots and stuff that are on knotted designs that you see where there's these like spaces like that in between. They're a little tricky to do with one strand, but it's possible. In our case, we were working over these, so it's a little easier. So once you've done that, you've got your coils. And if I was to let go of this right now, my coils would just spiral open, kind of. Although the Gudebrod is helping me because it's sticky, so it's staying put, you know, relatively nicely. But still, I'm not going to let go of them. I'm going to bring the long end through that loop. And come back over here and find the end of your loop. And pull it down. Pull that a little more. And what we want to do is we want to bring that strand inside of that one. So just like that. And so you should get your knot hidden in there. And you can pull to tighten. And it'll do that for you. So a couple options here. You can trim it like this, or if you feel like you want to make sure it's extra secure, you can do another wrap on top of this one. And the way you would do that is you just fold this over and wrap around again. Alternatively, you can take both of these and just do a gentle knot, one that doesn't cinch your beadwork down too much, but let me show you. So this is just a square knot, but I don't want to cinch my silk wrap, so I'm just very gently doing that. And that's optional if you feel like you need to, but you really don't even need to do that. And then you can just trim it. So what I did on mine, let me pull that out really quick, is I trimmed them right at this spot here. And I put a tiny little bit of, what's it called, fabric glue on my knots on the end here. And then I called it done. So for fabric glue, if you want to use something like this will work, Fabric Fusion. But honestly, I don't know if it really needs it. And another thing I didn't do yet is I didn't trim these ends to look even. So we'll do that too. Let's get the scissors and push down, pull it. So there's my silk wrap. It's good, it's in good shape. And let's bring these ends to meet each other here. Just kind of. So cut kind of on a diagonal there. Oops. Didn't quite go as I planned. There we go. And on this side, same thing. I'm just going to bring that up to meet it and cut that kind of at the same length. So that looks a little cleaner. And we can kind of pull that through to make it match. And there it is. So let's see. We're still doing pretty good on time. Is there any parts of this that you guys want to see again, or I could show alternative closing styles on one of them?
Danielle, just a couple things. You do have a few minutes, and
Yeah.
we were just talking about possible alternate closures. So what if you were really determined and maybe you did want to add a finding? What would you recommend?
Maybe a clamshell. And there are clamshells that you can get 3 strands through and then just do a nice overhead knot with some tweezers, get that to snuggle in there. Crimp covers might work too. And then what I do with a crimp cover is, so I would bring the strands through your jump ring and then back down and do a knot and then bring a crimp cover over that knot. So you could do that. So there'd be like a jump ring right there. You could do that. Also, we did a cool closure on a necklace back in August. So, and we were using the same exact cord. But another thing you could do is you can bring your ends through a seed bead and use those to turn. And what I found is that you can get our stainless steel 6mm and 5mm jump rings through that bead still. So even after you've done that, and then you could just weave this back in. And it would be a little trickier, but like I was saying earlier, the this cord, if you put a very thin tapestry needle on the end, or if you glue it, like put instant needle or dip this in some fabric glue so that it stays like a needle, you can get these back through beads like that. We did that in, what was it called? It was a Bohemian necklace. We did that on August 20th, I think it was, or August 22nd. You can find it on Michael's YouTube if you look up Czech Bohemian necklace, and that's using the same cord. So
those are great tips, Danielle.
Yeah, and then there's ribbon ends too. Gosh, you could continue to loom, but just loom with all 8/0 seed beads and clip a ribbon end on the end.
Someone just asked if they could use a ribbon clamp. So that's the perfect response, Danielle.
Cool. Yeah, ribbon clamps work. You know, I've had a hard time getting mine not to scratch up my seed beads a little bit, but you know, people love them, and I think that they do work. So yeah.
Danielle, I sew more than probably I do seed bead. And so now that I'm looking at it, and the class was great today because you really made me think about the beads down the center and the other beads that we could use, is I think I might be tempted to now sew this down onto a piece of leather.
Oh yeah. Yeah, leather, felt, all that. That's all going to be so cool.
So it's just, yeah, it's just getting this. It looks so pricey. It looks so expensive to me. This how you manage to get everything together. So I think a lot of people are really thinking twice about what they will do with the pattern.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what everyone's gonna want to create with these. And I want to thank Felicia. Felicia posted the class that I was mentioning. She posted a link to it in the chat. So thank you, Felicia. So yeah, that, I mean, I can't wait to see that. I think leather would be really cool.
Uh-huh.
Now I need to do that. Actually, I could just send you this one.
Please do. I'll do
Yeah.
something really good with it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You got the highest compliment. Marguerite just said it looks so Sundance catalog.
Oh, that is a huge compliment. Yeah.
Huge compliment.
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah,
You know,
I
we all go to
agree.
that for inspiration. We all do it. It's the best.
Danielle, would you mind giving Laverne your your comment on what you think it should be sold at if you had that in a booth?
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, I came a little bit better prepared to answer this question than last time. I have a price worksheet that I built for myself. It's a very simple Excel, and it has a place where I put in my material cost. And so, for example, like if I bought a strand of these and let's say I paid, I'm just guessing, like say I paid $10 for this strand, and then I know that I used 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 of them, you know, that the Excel would just do that calculation for me. So I know exactly what I spent on that. Same with things like this, I have an adder. So if that month I bought a bunch of cord, I'll make that my number for the month and I divide that over everything I made that month. So my adder, just to give you guys a rough estimate, is I just like put a 0.2 on there. In addition to that, if I have to ship it on Etsy, I'm going to add cost for that. Or if I had to pay for my booth or my table, I'm going to put an adder in for that. It ends up that I take this number and times that by 3. And then I add those factors, multiply it by that number, right? It spits out a really good number for me. And so, I mean, I thought about maybe sharing it in the Facebook group if you guys want to see it. It's so personal to my own cost structure. So it's only useful to the extent that you can see like the format. But I thought about maybe trying something like that at some point because it's a good question. We get asked a lot. But if I had to ballpark it and just give you a number, 45, 50, because of the crystal, you've used a lot of crystal and you put a lot of time into it. It takes a long time to make, especially if you sit there and do those braids. Oh my gosh. Like that was the longest part for me, is sitting and doing the braids at the end. So yeah, I mean, you want to get your time out of it too. And I'm really bad about putting my time in. So you got to think about that. But yeah, 45, 50, maybe more, depending on your venue where you are. And then if you're ever feeling, oh, this is actually kind of a good thing to share because I underprice my stuff. I'm really bad about underpricing because I'm afraid it won't sell, you know, and I'm afraid somebody will be like, oh gosh, I could, you know, just go make that myself. But you guys brought up the Sundance catalog. Go look at the prices in there. I'm just saying, go look at that. And you'll feel better about your prices. So definitely you gotta price it for what you know your time is worth and your material cost. Yeah. So any other questions about that or anything else?
No, I think that's great, Danielle. I think we've given them some alternate threads if they want to try it, and certainly some alternate finishes. So we'll just look forward to seeing what people do next.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So next week, if you guys are free and you want to join us for our next Friday class, we're gonna do something more fun for Halloween. Just kind of spooky. It's my spider web and my spooky spider web. And these were they're just so like, I don't know, Morticia, Elvira. I liked the way this looked. So I'm going to show you guys how I made these with felt, gluing on some flatbacks, and doing some brick stitch and fringe. So all simple techniques, but put together in a way that's kind of cool. And in the handout, all these patterns are available for you to download. And if you've ever done any flatback gluing before, or you have questions on it, we did have a class recently with Kelly, who's the expert on how to do this kind of work. So you can go back and look at that if you want to work ahead, because what I'm going to have ready for class next week are samples that are already glued. I am going to show how I glued them, but I'll be jumping ahead to some pre-dried samples so you can see how to stitch on them. So that's that class. And then, gosh, and then after that, we're going to do some really simple, relaxing, but still spooky Halloween-y knotting. And this one is easy. It's really easy. And the finish has a similar way like to what we did today, but you can also change that up. And so that's the October 27th. And I do have my November handy if there's time. We got a couple minutes, so grab my November. November, we're going to be everybody's, if you guys are like me, you're thinking about gifts for people. And so I really love doing peyote stitch. It's one of my favorite stitches. I love making patterns. So I did a gift for everybody. I put a peyote pattern in the handout, and in class, we're going to stitch up the pattern, and then I'll show you how to gift them as a beautiful ornament. And these look really cool on the tree. They're going to be really nice to give to people. You could also mail these. So if you're sending it to someone far away, this will slide into an envelope with a little extra postage, and you can just mail it to them. They can hang it on their tree, and it's got your gift bracelet inside. So we're going to do a recap of odd count peyote, pattern reading, and decreasing. So let me show you the back side of this one. Just cover it up a little bit with my snowflakes. But the decrease to a point, that's all in the handout too, how we're going to do that. And then we attach some findings. So that's going to be an action-packed class. We're going to cover a lot of stuff in there. And there's different colorways. There's a bunch of different colors. This is just 2 of them. So you've got this one is called Alpine. And I can't remember what I named this one, but there's a couple others. There's Jolly, Lucky, there's a Cobalt Lavender, and there's, gosh, I'm forgetting one of them, but there's a bunch. So check it out. And then last but not least, so far what I've got on the website, snowflakes. And so there's been lots of requests for snowflakes, and I was just trying to make it work with, something that would hold its structure. And so I thought, oh, hey, bugles, because I've seen that bugles are used in this way a lot, and they come out really cool. So I tried, this is a brick stitch that turns into herringbone to make that kind of pop. And it's really strong. That's wildfire in there. So if you're looking for a project that's good classic stitching, this is that one. The crystal right in the center is 8mm. And that's it so far. So far, so good. That's all we've got. But I'm working on December. And December, we have some really cool ideas. So I'm excited to share those with you guys. And if you're not already a member of our Facebook group, we have a lot of discussions in there about what kind of content you want, what materials would you like to see used more, and questions, and then of course just sharing the glamorous work that you guys do. So if you're not already a member there, just go to blog.johnbead.com, and you can find our links there to get to the Facebook group. And then if you're in social media anywhere and you hashtag Make It With Michaels and hashtag John Bead, you'll be able to find us there, and we'll share your work. We love sharing everything that you guys create. So, all right. And unless there's any more questions for me.
I think you're good, Danielle.
All right. Let's wish you guys
many thanks. Many thanks from everyone.
Thanks. Thank you guys. Happy beading. Have a great weekend.